In this video, I'm going to challenge another belief most people rarely question. The idea that employment is the safest path to stability. From the time we leave school, the next step seems obvious. Find a job, build a career, work hard, climb the ladder, and eventually the promise is that stability will turn into freedom. But what if the structure you're stepping into isn't designed to make you free? What if the system that rewards your effort is quietly directing your wealth, energy, and time in ways that keep you dependent on it? Think about the transition. Education trains you to qualify. Employment tells you what to do with those qualifications. You enter a role, you receive a salary, you're given tasks, targets, schedules, evaluations. Everything becomes structured around productivity and performance. On the surface, it feels like progress. You're earning, you're contributing, you're moving forward. But look carefully at the exchange. You trade your time for compensation. You trade your energy for performance. You trade your decision making for instruction. And gradually, your sense of security becomes tied to something you don't control, your employer. Now, to be clear, employment itself isn't the enemy. The trap is psychological and structural, because when your primary source of stability depends on a system you don't design, your freedom becomes conditional. You work within boundaries someone else defines. You operate inside strategies someone else builds. You help grow outcomes that someone else ultimately owns. And over time, something subtle happens. You start measuring your worth with your role. Your job title becomes identity. Your income becomes validation. Your promotion becomes proof of progress, but promotions don't necessarily increase autonomy. Often they just increase responsibility within the same structure. Short term, employment can provide stability, but long term, it can quietly shape dependence. You organize your life around work schedules. Your energy peaks and crashes according to work demands. Your time becomes segmented into obligations that you didn't design. And when the system shifts, layoffs, restructuring, economic changes, the sense of security can disappear overnight, not because you didn't work hard, but because control was never fully yours. That's the employment trap. It convinces you that stability equals freedom while quietly tying your survival to an external structure. Now, here's the key point. Just like the education trap, escaping this isn't about rejecting work. It's about understanding how your wealth, energy, and time are being directed. That's where WET flow becomes critical. WET stands for wealth, energy, and time, and WET flow is simply the direction those three forces move in your life. Inside the employment trap, your WET is largely directed by the system you work within. Your time follows the schedule. Your energy follows the demands. Your wealth follows the compensation structure. You may be earning, but the flow is still externally controlled. The goal isn't to stop working. The goal is to regain control of the flow. Wealth in this framework is the ability to produce value that compounds beyond your direct labor. Energy is your capacity, your mental clarity, physical strength, emotional resilience. Time is the container in which both operate. When those three are directed intentionally, work becomes a tool instead of a cage. But philosophy alone doesn't shift a structure. That's why the next layer is the BBA model. BBA stands for brain, body, and asset. Inside the employment trap, the brain is often used to execute tasks rather than design systems. So reclaiming the brain means thinking strategically instead of performing instructions. The body often absorbs the stress of deadlines, long hours, and constant productivity pressure. Rebuilding the body restores the energy required to operate independently. And then there's the asset. Employment conditions you to believe your job is your security, but the real asset isn't your position, it's your awareness, your ability to observe systems, direct your energy, and create value beyond the role you occupy. When your brain thinks independently, your body sustains strong energy, and your asset maintains awareness. You stop functioning as just an employee within the system and start becoming a creator within it. But again, a structure alone isn't enough if your daily cycle doesn't change, because traps are reinforced by repetition. That's where the 24-hour clock and the 25-hour clock systems come in. The 24-hour clock is the loop most employees operate within. Habit becomes routine execution. Belief becomes dependence on the next paycheck. System becomes the corporate or organizational structure directing your day. Every day, those three hands move together, and over time, your life becomes synchronized to a schedule you didn't design. The 25-hour clock interrupts that pattern. It's not about adding time to the day, it's about reclaiming authority over how your time, energy, and attention are directed. Habit becomes daily creation outside your role. Belief shifts from dependence to self trust. System becomes something you begin designing yourself. When those three hands align with your brain, body, and asset, your wealth flow begins shifting under your control. Your wealth starts building beyond your position. Your energy becomes something you protect and invest. Your time becomes something you allocate intentionally. Work no longer defines your freedom. It becomes one part of a structure you're designing. Now here's what's next. In upcoming videos, I'll show you how I experienced this trap personally, how employment shaped my thinking, my energy, and my time without me realizing it. And I'll show you how I keep my 25-hour clock ticking by aligning habit, belief, and system with my brain, body, and asset. Not theory, execution. If this resonates, subscribe. You won't just hear how to step out of the trap, you'll see how to stay out of it. And if you're honest with yourself, you probably already feel it. The routine, the ceiling, the quiet sense that you're capable of more. The first step to freedom isn't quitting your job, it's deciding you want control. Start your 25-hour clock. I'll see you in the next one.